Make sure you don't miss a thing. Go to starzology.com/newsletter and sign up. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hi, Alison. Thanks for inviting me.
So nice to have you again. So in this episode, we're going to be doing some basic natal astrology. We're going to be talking about the moon in the houses.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yes, so for those of you who don't know, there are 12 houses in astrology, and the moon is one of the planets, and it could be in any one of these houses in your chart.
Yeah, it's part of the Holy Trinity, the sun, moon, and rising sign.
It is. We do love our Holy Trinity.
Yes.
And
some of our listeners love it too. I've heard it quoted back to me, actually.
I know, recently. Right? Yeah. So when people come back, they say, oh, yeah, we like your Holy Trinity, blah, 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 because it's solid.
Yeah.
You know, after you've looked at your ascendant, you looked at your sun, you're going to go to the moon. That really is the next planet you're learning. So this is something you would want to pay attention to early on in your astrology journey.
Right.
And say, well, what house is the moon in?
Yeah.
What does it mean if it's in these houses?
Yeah.
So we're going to work our way through the 12 houses, but let's just have a little chat about what does the moon represent in general.
Right. Yeah.
So it's your mother.
It's your mother. It's your needs. It's your internal orientation, whereas the sun is like your external orientation, your personality, your drive, your essence.
Right.
The moon is like the soft core underbelly. It's like it's the part of your personality, I think, that comes out when you least expect it. Whereas the ascendant is the shell on the outside that people see first.
Yes. Then
the identity is the sun. That's your core identity. And then this like the gooey molten center is the moon.
Oh.
And that's the part that comes out when you're vulnerable, when you're sick, when you're
emotional,
when you're angry, when you're emotional, when your defenses are down. That's when the moon comes out, I think, especially if you have them in different signs or conflicting signs from your sun.
Yes. And that's true that what you mentioned about the ascendant, sun and moon, that the ascendant, we all see when we meet someone, we see the ascendant. Yeah. And then once you get to know them, you may come across their sun, but it takes a while to get to know their moon.
Yeah.
It's not something
it might really come out like your first fight, or when you first see them cry, or when they've broken up with someone or been, laid off from a job, or when they're at their most
worked
vulnerable.
Up. Interesting. Yeah. So I think then that's kind of interesting. So we'll go through the moon in each of the houses then. So we would then start with the moon in the first house.
Yeah. And I'm going to be quoting a bit from a book by Howard Sesbordas, The 12 Houses.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he says that and he also talks about Cancer through the houses. So the moon is associated with the sign of Cancer. So he talks about the moon and Cancer through the houses, because that would be kind of equally important in a way, but mostly, the planetary placements are the most important, and that whatever's on the cusp is also important. So he says that the sign that Cancer is on the cusp of, or the moon is in, it has to do with your insecurity, your childish, regressive, vulnerable parts of life, and where that plays out in because the houses are like the sphere of life where these things are expressed.
Yes.
So the planet is like the actor, and the sign it's in is like the role that the actor is playing. And then the house is like the stage set where they're actually doing
where it's happening,
or the house, the room in the house, for example. So if it's the fourth house, maybe it's the kitchen, whatever. Yes. Anyway, so we'll go through that. But so moon in the first house.
Right.
So any planet in the first house is going to be amplified, and it's going to be extra important because the moon, or the first house is it's the personality. It's the first house.
Yes. Yes.
And so the moon in the first house wants to exert a dynamic impact on the environment. The moon is inclined to stay fused with the mother and the surroundings. So your mother will be maybe extra important or have a very influential, impact on your life or your personality. Mm-hmm. And you might go through the first half of your life, like very, very influenced by your mother and your beliefs and your activities. And you might have an instinctive feeling about life that comes through that kind of supersedes your logic. So you might have like an almost as Howard Sasportis puts it, an animalistic intelligence that instinctively knows what to do in certain situations. You can sniff out opportunities or danger, or you can detect trouble somehow. And you have these instinctive things that maybe you can't even justify, depending on what sign your moon is in or how it's placed in your chart.
Interesting.
It may be like these intuitions that you either can or can't integrate into the rest of your personality.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful position, any planet in the first house. So it really is putting your, this. I imagine it's going to be quite an emotional person, really,
right?
One way or another.
Yeah, one of my best friends had moon in in Gemini in the first house, and she had moon and sun in Gemini, but very emotional. Emotionally distraught a lot of the time. She was diagnosed with...
In tears at work.
Well, I mean, she was actually diagnosed with like a mood disorder, and she had a very difficult emotional life.
Right.
But yeah, like that's the extreme, right? And
it is.
The more likely is just that your emotions are always going to be front and center, the person who has their heart on their sleeve, so to speak.
Yes. How do you feel about that, whatever it is? Yeah.
And maybe if you can't even justify it, you're always going to just, lead with whatever you feel. It's like that's
interesting.
Yeah.
You and I don't have this, so we're it's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look then at the moon in the second house.
Mm-hmm. So according to Howard Sasportis, when the moon is in the second house, it enhances your sense of emotional security through possessions, through money, and through your family of origin and your values.
Right.
So your sense of security really comes from this sentimental attachment to things that you inherit, whether they're objects, memories, people, or situations, and even antiques and heirlooms from the past, or your sense of your culture of origin.
Yes, I think this is very interesting that your stuff has meaning.
Yeah.
That pebble you picked up on the beach when you were out with Aunt Agatha, but she died last year, that's meaningful. And they seem to have a cupboards of possessions, meaningful, that you and I are looking at and thinking, what's the junk? What's with the junk? What's the clutter? Yeah, the clutter.
Yeah.
And they are emotionally attached to their stuff.
Yeah. Or as Tyler Durden says in Fight Club, the things you own, they end up owning you.
Well, yes. Yeah. So this is the thing. That's it is what it is, right?
Yeah. And it always depends also on how integrated it is in your chart. Yes. So this is a placement that then, your moon could be trine Saturn. You could have a very great sense of business. You might even go into selling antiques. Like that could be how you integrate your moon in the second house. It needn't be like a hoarder thing. But there is that intensity.
There's a subtle edge, isn't there, between a collector and a hoarder?
Right. Yeah. It's just
stuff. It's your stuff. Your stuff is in the second house. All your clutter, look around and
there's not many of us who don't have too much stuff, right? In this modern day and age, the minimalist is a rare.
Well, it's a big kind of. It's spoken about an awful lot about being a minimalist. I can't even say it. And you've got like one coffee cup and a teaspoon and this and that, and you wear black clothes all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think there's something about getting rid of the junk.
Yeah.
But it can be painful if there is emotion built into the Aunt Agatha's what have you to get rid of it. So that's the attachment is to the actual possession.
Yeah.
The emotional investment that's made in the possession.
Yeah. And I wonder too, not to get like super into the weeds historically though, because we're living in a secular age where possessions and personal beliefs have really superseded religious beliefs in a lot of ways. Yes. And where the nuclear family replaced the extended family, and now the individual with a scrapbook full of memories, or maybe just a website with the familyhistory.com, whatever. Yes. And that has replaced having like a huge extended family, or even a sense of your religion or your place in the world spiritually. Mm-hmm. And like the second house really has to do not just with possessions, but with values and with your sense of what is valuable.
Yeah.
So the moon in the second house could be a very fraught position, I would think. But it could also be awesome.
Yeah.
Like any position.
For intuitively collecting your antiques.
Yeah.
Rather than just collecting glasses because you you always have or something.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
You might have an appraiser's eye for...
Well, let's go with that.
Yeah. Or the thing with like the dead zone, like hand me the object and you get the psychic impressions from the object.
Well, yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look then at the moon in the third house.
Yeah. So the moon in the third house. The third house is the house associated with Gemini. So it's the house of communication. It's the house of like your childhood. It's not the house of the home. So it's like it rules siblings. It rules your close neighborhood, the neighborhood where you grew up. And it's associated with influences from the past, but not necessarily the deep past.
Yes.
So it's your current environment and often your siblings. So especially female relatives or...
Yeah.
And when you're talking about the moon, so it could be someone who has sentimental feelings about their sisters, or perhaps they build a sisterhood in their friend group or at work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And public speaking with emotion, maybe someone who is a really powerful speaker who can influence others through
Move
words.
the crowd.
Move the crowd, exactly. Hearts and minds.
Wow, hearts and minds. Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that can be played many ways. I think that position. That it's not. I don't particularly think it's challenging, but it's yeah. Okay.
Moon in the fourth house.
Moon in the fourth house. Oh,
Someone we know has this.
we do. I'll put my hand up to this one. I'm afraid. Yes. So, what do we think?
Well, so Howard Sesfortis thinks.
Yes. What does he think?
He says that there's a great identification with the family. You find security and a sense of belonging within the structure of the family. So whether this is your family of origin or the family that you create, there is a great deal of feeling of a need to retreat into a sanctuary. So you build a sanctuary in your home. And when I'm looking around your home, I absolutely see this wonderful sanctuary.
Shut the door.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. It's
Right,
full of all the things.
Thank you.
It's so comfortable. It's beautiful. So it says they often will regress into their childhood behavior patterns when the struggle of life becomes too much. I'm not sure if that is you. They'll look to their mother for security and containment. But it's possible that the father emanated a safer feeling than the mother, which is interesting because the mother is more associated with the 10th house, and the father is more associated with the 4th house.
Yes.
So I don't know if you were a daddy's
girl. I
girl.
was a daddy's girl. I was a daddy's girl.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
And certainly, yes, I would say that the way to cocoon the home is, and what you're seeing as you're in my house at the moment is that this is all me. Previously, in previous homes I've had, when my husband was alive, when the kids were there, I had the home of what was the fashion at the time because other people were influencing me.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's all me, and I've taken down the stuff that is not gelling.
Yeah.
And I'm keep thinking, well, how much more stuff can I hang on these walls? And I don't know. I just keep going.
Yeah.
But before that, when I was a young teenager, I would have, posters on the wall of, Led Zeppelin and whoever. But the wall, there was always the art.
Yeah. Totally.
So it's, and I'm, yeah.
That's really cool. There's one more thing and I'm going to only say this because I know that it's actually, it reflects you as well. And it's just right here in print. It says, sometimes the 4th house moon wanders restlessly in search of the home or even the country where it feels the most safe and the most sense of belonging. And I know that you have moved from country to country a few times in your life.
And it was never my choice.
Yeah.
It was circumstances.
Fascinating. Yeah.
And all I ever wanted was my own home. And here we still sit in rented apartments. Yeah.
And it even says here that the deep, persistent sense of longing for peace and safety and tranquility is the foundation on which life is built. So it doesn't have to do with the location so much as just building this tranquil home for yourself.
And I do think that's one of the reasons I've actually stayed here all these years. It's been 12 years now, this apartment, which I never thought we'd stay ever.
Yeah.
Is because we've got great security, we've got air conditioning, and I can shut the door. And
we live in the same building, just in case you're new to the podcast. We do. But no one's banging on the door at midnight, whereas if you live down the street, they're going to be. Yeah.
And
and if anyone ever does bang on the door, it gives me almost a heart attack. Like, what?
I mean, there's nobody else. There's no one on the floor,
I know. Who could it be?
Yeah, I ordered a pizza yesterday. They wouldn't even let the guy up. I mean, I had to go down and get the guy.
Could you please let the guy up with the thing? Jeez.
But the thing is, it is to do with. I have owned homes in my time, and I've done my best with the garden, and I keep working at it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely. I wouldn't say I'm house proud because I could do with a vacuum and tidying up, but I want the environment to be a representative of who I am. I don't want bottles of vitamins or something on the counter or old junk and clutter. And there's no shoes and laundry hanging about. It's all hopefully artistically placed. But anyway,
totally.
So I'm afraid that is so the case.
That's awesome.
It's so the case.
Yeah.
Oh dear, you think you can run away from your astrology, but you can't.
No, exactly. It's amazing. So moon in the 5th house.
Yeah.
This moon stresses the individuality through hobbies, romance, and creative pursuits. The moon in the 5th house seeks comfort and relaxation and security in these pursuits. It struggles to be creative, and it may have had a creative mother. The moon is sometimes associated with, obviously, your children. So if you have, the 5th house is associated with children. So if you have the moon in the 5th house, you may have either a lot of children or a lot of creative pursuits that through which that moon is channeled. And you may have a desire to have children. You may have grown up always wanting children or not wanting children. Then suddenly
family arrives,
marrying into a household where you're raising children or something like that. And definitely the, that motherly identity is somehow something that is tied into your creativity or into your identity.
Yeah. Interesting. I think it's a good placement, actually, that moon in the 5th. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the 5th house in general is pretty much a good house, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice. It's the celebrity example that Howard Sportis gives here is Sir Laurence Olivier, and it says he's got an ability to portray a wide range of characters. And he was born with the skillful moon in Virgo in the 5th house.
Oh.
I have moon in Virgo, so I'm like, ooh, okay, I can read that one.
So he can hone his craft right there.
Exactly. So creativity and the vulnerability of an actor, ability to portray a numerous.
Well, that's good. So he can put himself emotionally out. He can play the role on the stage.
Exactly, giving birth to the roles of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be just cut and dry motherhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's where we can express how we feel, and it's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So moon in the 6th house. 6th house is associated with Virgo. It's typically not the most glamorous of houses. It's got to do with your daily chores, your health, your pets, and what you do on a day-to-day basis, whether that's work or going to school or just the things that you get up and do that may or may not be rewarding in some way. So the drudgery or the habits. It's got to do with habits a lot. Yeah. So making the morning coffee, it says administering to the needs of the body, and you're taking care of your health and your crops. If you're in the traditional, the Virgo holding the sheaf of wheat, or if you're, in school, it's that studying, that homework, that,
with your packed lunch ready to go.
Exactly. Getting dressed for work and doing all that stuff, coming home and feeding yourself, and the need to feel emotionally engaged. So this is the moon in the 6th house. So the need to feel emotionally engaged in that work and feeling like a sense of belonging and reward emotionally from that, from those 6th house.
Yes. For those of you interested in a little more, I'm now offering online astrology seasonal sessions. So there's one session in each of the solar seasonal mid-months, which will be February, May, August and November. I'll be chatting about advanced astrology topics through a Zoom presentation. If you're interested, check out the link for my seasonal sessions in the show notes below. Now back to the episode. So the work they choose or the place they choose to work at has to be emotionally, not almost sustaining, but it cannot be a sterile, just
cold
do that.
thing
Put
where
these
you
widgets in that box.
nameless, just go to your cubicle and you don't interact with anyone, and you just have to plug into the thing and you don't talk to anyone at work. That would be a horror show for someone with a moon in the
Yes,
sixth
I
house.
agree. Yeah,
and also the health. It says that the kinds of illnesses that may be inherited have to do with the moon in the sixth house. So there may be anxieties or tension, things that were inherited through the mother, or the kinds of illnesses that come through anxiety that is family oriented. So emotional issues that were inherited through the mother. And I'm thinking this is a dark example, so bear with me. But if anyone watched the TV show Bates Motel, which was kind of a prequel to Psycho, like Norman Bates and Norma Bates, it was actually a brilliant TV show. Like, the acting was incredible.
Right.
Very dark, very crazy, but it was basically like, Norman Bates as a teenager and how he grows up to become this, this horrific murderer. And his mother was just it was one of the most tour de force acting things I've ever seen in my life. Like, the acting was incredible. And it just shows you like how that whole dynamic of like a mother who means well and just wants to protect her son can become this poisoning, narcissistic, horrific, like murderous kind of thing. And eventually she, takes over half of his personality and he becomes this kind of like split personality murderer, as the movie Psycho famously. Yeah, but it shows you kind of like season by season, like how it just ramps up. And her character is so, like the Norma Bates character is so compelling and so sympathetic. But at the same time, you see just this craziness, this narcissism, and how like a mother who wants nothing but protecting her son ends up poisoning him against other women and against the world, and becoming what is most feared, kind of thing.
Wow.
Through that attachment.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the darkest example I could possibly think of.
We do rely on you for these examples.
I do love me some dark shows.
Yeah.
Bates Motel, look it up. Highly recommended. But on the bright side, this could also be someone who is an incredibly supportive coworker, the person who maybe organizes people at work into
brings the donuts
or organizes like some kind of an after work event, or the person who's always bringing the birthday cards and having everybody sign it. Oh, everybody pitch in for so-and-so. She's going away on mat leave. We're going to do a little thing after work for her.
There's always someone doing that. It's never me, I'll tell you now.
We all need that person.
Yes, so, absolutely.
Moon in the sixth house. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or the cat mom, the cat mom, the mom to cats, the mom to dogs, the person who adopts like all the different pets, and I love it.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, moon in the seventh. Yeah. So the seventh house is the house of your partner. It's the house of marriage. It's the house of open enemies or business partners.
That's your husband, your partner. Yeah.
So this is a person who may be overly sensitive or overly adaptive to the needs of the partner. They may see the other partner and put them on a pedestal or above their own needs. Deriving their identity maybe too much from the other person, and then maybe when they break up, inevitably, if the relationship crumbles, they may not know who they are, have this identity crisis because they've totally invested themselves in whoever their partner is. On the other hand, they may be the person who's constantly looking for someone to take care of them, so that projecting the mother onto the wife or husband. Yeah, and the early patterning of the mother may have created sort of a perception that they're not complete without a partner. There's something lacking in them that needs to be taken care of. Yes. Yeah. Wow. So looking for security in their relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. Not someone to be trifled with or not the like promiscuous, I would think, type. And if they are, it's not because they are just addicted to playing the field. It's because they're seeking that perfect cocoon, woman or man who will complete them and help them feel comfortable and like they're safe and nurtured and loved and all that stuff that maybe they got at home and maybe they didn't when they were growing up.
Or they marry their mother. You see, there's the trick with that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The moon in the 8th house.
Yes.
So this is an openness and attunement to the hidden forces that are operating behind the scenes and the deeper feelings. So they may be comfortable with those deeper and darker aspects of life. They may have an early experience with sex or death that strongly affects their personality.
Right.
Sex or intimacy may be sought primarily for emotional security, and that may be a way of them immersing themselves in a relationship or transactionally sort of buying their way into a relationship. They may see the relationship as a way of buying security or something, feeling comfortable and at home in a relationship may be like a primal need for them. It's not just like a nice thing to have to be in a relationship. It may seem like a
urgent,
life or death. Yeah, absolutely. Or it could be something where, inheriting something through the family line.
Right.
Yeah. They may be the dowry.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yes.
The moon maybe maybe their parents were divorced, or there were, kind of separation anxiety to do with the parents, or one of the parents could have been absent or hidden or somehow secretive, or whatever happened to dad, and there's there's somehow like lies or secrecy or something
secret
to do with the breakup. Or the inheritance of land or property somehow on the positive side
from the dead. Yes. yes.
Yeah. The moon in the 9th.
The moon in the 9th. Let's have a look at that.
So these people could have the ability to sort of rely on faith when it comes to their relationships, or they could inherit their faith through the family line. So they could have religious or spiritual or cultural beliefs that are very strong in their chart, or in their personality rather. And that could have to do with the mother. So the mother could be the one dragging them to church, so to speak.
Yes.
Or forcing them to, study abroad, broaden your horizons. Don't go to school in our little hometown. We want you to see the world. Get your become more worldly.
Go away to college.
Don't stay here with your high school girlfriend. We want you to go and see the world. That kind of thing. And so the 9th house may have to do with foreign countries, or it may have to do with spirituality, or it may have to do with the law or adventure, or any of these 9th house things. But it will have had something to do with the way they feel at home, and this becomes tied up with the meaning of life and philosophy, or the church, contemplating these sort of higher meanings.
Right.
And that, or maybe their mother was a professor or something like that.
Yes.
All of these things are possible.
Yes, but then she would definitely want to broaden that outlook.
Yes.
One way or another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They may think of their mother as like a very worldly or spiritual or professorial or knowledgeable person.
Right.
Yeah.
The guru, maybe even.
Right. Yeah. It says the image of God in this book, the image of God may have a matriarchal slant.
Ah.
Yeah, which I like.
Oh,
obviously, my badass goddesses.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just could be like overbearing, like the the nuns, the quintessential nuns wrapping your knuckles with a ruler.
Yeah.
Maybe the Catholic schoolboys have moon in the 9th house, maybe.
Yeah.
So moon in the 10th house. This is me.
Oh, Arwynne. So what do you reckon?
Well, I was raised by my mother and my grandmother. My dad was, like my mother and father were divorced when I was very young. My dad's amazing. He's an Aquarius and was not absent at all, but didn't have custody. So I only saw him a couple times a year. But my mother was definitely the primary influence.
And still is.
Yeah,
yes.
Totally. And and I think of, it's funny. It's like I do text her first thing in the morning, and she's probably the last person I text at night still. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You're such a good daughter.
No, but she is kind of my best friend. Still. I'm like, really, honestly. And my thoughts about success in life definitely come from the values that she instilled.
Yes.
So that is
the honors she has achieved.
Oh, God, yeah. Like she's my idol, like intellectually. Yeah, like getting her PhD at the age of whatever.
Yes.
An appropriate age older than me, and we all know how old I am.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
like go mother, like wow. Yeah. I can't say enough good things. I don't want to gush, but yeah. Also, so not just that, but in addition to having a close emotional relationship with your mother, the career or profession of someone with moon in the 10th house, and I can definitely attest to this, it has to cater to your emotional needs. If you don't feel
your career.
Yeah, like if you're in a career where you're not emotionally fulfilled, like it is withering.
There's a word.
Oh, yeah, it's true, and that's not. I'm not reading that. That is a word that just came to me. I'm thinking of it a couple of times.
You have to be emotionally invested in what you're doing.
Yeah, and it doesn't even mean you have to be doing like living your dream or like your best life or doing your passion or whatever. Even if you're just working for a company that does whatever, if you feel appreciated. Feeling,
right.
Oh God, that word appreciated, but it's so important to someone with a moon in the 10th house just to feel appreciated at work and have people like, oh my God, thank you, that's awesome.
You want people to say thank you and know your name, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh wow, that was so fast. Oh wow, I always can send this thing to you, and I know you'll do it properly, and that kind of thing. And I mean, you like your heart. It's like the Grinch who stole, like your heart grows like three times bigger. Like those are the things that just feed your soul if you have the moon into the 10th house. Your bosses or authority figures can either be like a source of pride and comfort and security, or they can be the absolute bane of your existence and give you goddamn nightmares.
Right. But you won't stay then, will you? You won't stay.
Because you want security, right? I have
You want career security.
I have definitely lingered too long in positions where I didn't feel appreciated, and it was horrible. It was horrible.
Oh, interesting.
And like I can't think of a worse time in my life than the times where I was either unemployed briefly or not appreciated in my job, and where I knew I was in the wrong position and I was desperately looking for something else, and it just didn't happen fast enough. And months went by or I think, like maybe 2 years at the most,
yes.
where I was just like in the wrong thing, and I felt awful, just awful.
And does it color your whole life then?
I mean, I went about the rest of my life, but it's 8 hours out of your day, right?
I know.
It's a lot of time where you feel like you're dedicating all of this energy or not enough energy. Like worst thing for a Virgo is to feel like you're just wasted. Like, like they're not taking advantage of what you could actually do for them. And you're just like, I hate to say, but bored. Oh,
Oh,
being bored.
Yes.
God,
yes,
it's like, I can do all these things. Why aren't you taking advantage of it? Like, why can't you see it? Yeah. So.
Yes, that is very interesting. Yeah.
Moon in the 10th.
Huh.
Yeah. So, moon in the 11th house.
Right.
They seek security and comfort and sense of belonging through friends, groups, or organizations. Of course.
Okay.
They may be very impressionable to the influence of groups, for better or worse. And so these are the people who really need to choose their friends wisely. I mean, they sometimes say like, oh, you...
And who they follow.
Yes, absolutely. They sometimes say like, you can tell a lot from someone about about someone through their friends. And I've always hated that because I have so many different types of friends. I'm like, well, it depends, like,
yes,
you're going to judge me by the people I know at the bar or
the five people you know shows who you really are.
But yeah. So if you have moon in the 11th, that is true. Probably. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You are the sum of your friends, or what do they say? Something like that.
Yeah.
Or the people you hang out with. Yeah.
I read a really interesting study they did and this was people in college, but they were extrapolating it to mean, people
in general.
In general, there's 3 different types of people, friend group people. So you're either a part of a whole group where you're just like all in one group and all of your friends know each other.
Yeah.
Or you have kind of 2 different groups and you sort of like straddle the 2 different groups.
Right.
Or you are in the center and you have like all these different spokes and like none of them know each other. Yeah. And that's always been me. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes. Multiple friend groups. Yeah.
And I was an only child, so that probably has something to do with that as well. But yeah, like maybe 2 of my friends would know each other and then the rest of it's like, oh, I've got all these different friends and they're all in different things. Right. Unrelated. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So so that's one of the reasons why I was like, well, I can't really tell anything about me from my friends, because which friends are you talking about? Like, who?
I don't know.
Yeah. But for some people, that is very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's also important to. It says these people will maybe project their maternal baggage onto their female friends.
Oh,
yeah, right.
That's
So that's an interesting thing, and they may involve themselves in group activities as a way of getting away from it all. So their friend groups may be where they
need
find
the group,
where they find their comfort and their nurturing and that sense of
where
home.
everyone knows their name.
Yes, totally. Yeah,
I can't remember the name of that program, but anyway, Cheers. Yes, of course.
Exactly.
Yes,
Cheers.
yes. Oh yes, Cheers.
But the moon in the 12th house.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a water house, and it's the wateriest of all the houses.
Yes.
So these are very receptive people. The evolutionary astrologers would say that this is the house of reincarnation. So if you have the moon in the 12th house, this could be you're very attached emotionally to your previous incarnations, or this could be your previous childhood influences.
Yes.
These people have ego boundaries that really need reinforcing elsewhere, because just the moon in the 12th house can be a very vulnerable, sort of absorptive. What's the word?
Sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean, even if it's not a word.
Yes.
They will be very influenced by other people, and they will not know if they're experiencing their own emotions or if they're taking on the emotions of the room or their partner or someone in the family.
Like a sponge.
Right. And I'm thinking, if anyone, I know I've mentioned this show before, but I'm thinking of the show The Bear, and Natalie, a.k.a. Sugar, the sister in that show. And she is so moon in the 12th house.
Right.
Oh, like just with the overbearing, manic depressive mother, and Natalie is going in and constantly asking, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And the mother just flies off the handle and is like, "Don't ask me if I'm okay." And so she grows up like with this need to nurture, but also this terror of nurturing. And when she gets pregnant as an adult, there's this conflict of like, I don't want my daughter to inherit this maternal poison of this emotional sickness. And
Now that's interesting, because technically we may all feel, I don't want my daughter to inherit blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And because their chart will have their moon in a different house.
Yeah.
But when it's in your chart, you're having to grapple with it.
Yeah.
To
Right.
I know I'm emotionally, I don't want to say a cripple, but
Right. I mean, I think we've all felt that way to some degree at some point. And I don't have children, but I'm not to be too revealing of things, but I mean, I think we've all probably had a conversation maybe with our mothers where we've gotten an insight into what their childhood was like, and been like, oh, I see why you are the way you are,
Yes. Yes.
And wow. And hopefully that happens early enough that you can actually go forth and have a better relationship because of that. And I mean, I know my mother at one point was like, it was when I started working out in 2018, when I famously, as I've said on the podcast many times, I went from being a couch potato to caring about my diet much more and working out a lot.
Come on.
And my mother had a Fitbit that she had been, and she was like, I'll send you my Fitbit. I don't use it anymore because she had gotten a newer model of it. And she's like, she goes, I'm conflicted. I don't want you to get an eating disorder or start to be obsessive about this. I want you to, be healthy, but I don't want you to start obsessing. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna, don't worry about that. But it was it's sweet, but also it reflects her whole childhood with her mother and all of that stuff and all of these.
It comes through. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I can say 6 years later, it did not give me any,
No.
But these are concerns that as a mother, as a daughter, as any woman will have, like what you pass on, what you absorb, what you are willing to take on as a woman in your group, whether that's your family group or
the maternal line, isn't it?
Yeah.
The matriarchal line.
Yeah. And I mean, not having children, I feel like I do have like maternal instincts that I kind of express through my friends. And I have a lot of friends who are younger than me who I dole out kind of like advice when they ask, and I'm not, overbearing about it whatsoever. But it's neat that that doesn't. It's not like wasted energy. Like there are people who look to you and they're like, well, I see you're doing this.
How'd you do it, Arwynne?
I see you doing this right. How'd
you do it? Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's neat. It's neat. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that 12th house is always a tricky house. It really is.
Yeah. So if you've been in the 12th house, you may have an unusual relationship with your mother. There may have been blurred boundaries, may be very susceptible to maternal influences, whether that's actually your mother or maternal influences from other people. And if there may be a spiritual nature or a capacity for expansive maternal behavior that is not just to your children. So you may be attracted to like nursing professions or palliative care or adopting a lot of pets or something like that, where you can actually nurture people, things, pets, animals, plants, the earth, what have you. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone through the moon, through the houses. We've expressed a little bit about what the moon represents and of each of the 12 houses. We've given some examples, which is always interesting.
Yeah.
And so if you found value in this episode, please do share it with somebody who would be interested. You can text us by clicking on the Apple Podcast or the Spotify link on the top. Let us know what you think of our episodes. You can certainly email us at starzology@gmail.com. And please do get on our newsletter list. We send out a newsletter every Sunday, astrologically related. And we're having some great feedback on our newsletter, which is really quite heartening, to say the least. It takes an awful lot of effort. Please do visit our blog at starzology.com and follow Arwynne at
MsPink.net.
Arwynne talks about current affairs and cultural
books and movies and
movies and TVs, and she's got a lot of ideas about all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And certainly do, if you want more astro freebies, to go to starzology.com and click on the top. There's a link there for freebies where you can get some templates and our latest quack, which is just one thing. But there are help things there to help with astrology and learning astrology and getting to grips with chart reading. Mm-hmm. So, Arwynne, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us again and sharing your insights with us and our audience.
Thank you, definitely. This has been great.
Thank you so much. And to our listeners, we will see you next time.
See you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.